Welcome to Mazza Vineyards, one of Pennsylvania's oldest and largest wineries. Established in 1972 by brothers Robert and Frank Mazza, the winery remains a family operation including Robert, his wife Kathleen, and their children Vanessa and Mario, along with Mario's wife Melissa. The winery's distinct Mediterranean architecture is a result of the family's Italian heritage. Situated in the Lake Erie viticultural appellation, in the town of Northeast, along the lake, the winery is in the heart of the grape belt, which contains more than 30,000 acres of grapes that stretch from the western shores of the lake in Ohio through Pennsylvania and into New York. Viticulture in the region owes its success to the lake and the effect it has along its shores in terms of temperature moderation during both spring and fall. After the grapes bud out in the spring, the shoots grow and develop clusters or bunches of grapes, which reach near full size by late summer. At this time, red grapes also begin to take on their color in a process known as veraison. As ripening progresses, the grapes develop their flavor, accumulate sugar, and degrade acid. Harvesting has advanced greatly in recent decades with innovative mechanical pickers that allow for quick, efficient picking of the fruit and that can replace numerous hand pickers. Hand harvesting is still used in certain vineyards or for certain varieties, but the majority of fruit brought to the winery is picked by machine. The machines ride over top of the row and shake the trellis and thus the fruit off of the vine and into a conveyor. The grapes are then deposited into bulk bins, typically holding 1 ton of fruit each, for transfer to the winery. Upon receipt at the winery, the fruit is inspected, tasted, and weighed. The fruit is then tipped into a hopper that conveys the fruit into a crusher destemmer, a machine that separates the berries from the stalks or rachis, as well as leaves and shoots. The berries then pass through a set of rollers to gently split the skins. This process creates must, the crushed berries consisting of skin, pulp, juice, and seeds. White grape varieties are crushed, destemmed, and pressed immediately to produce juice which then can be fermented by adding a yeast culture. Pneumatic presses squeeze the must to extract the young wine or juice. The wine or juice is collected in pans below and then transferred to tanks for settling. The remaining dried skins and seeds, known as pumice, is composted for later use in the vineyard. Many of the wines produced here at Mazza Vineyards are finished in stainless steel tanks and can be bottled as quickly as 3 to 4 months after harvest. White wines, including Riesling, Pinot Grigio, and Niagara, are brought to bottle early in order to retain their freshness and fruity aromas. Other wines, particularly dry red varieties like Merlot, are aged for a period of up to 18 to 24 months in a combination of stainless steel and oak barrels. In preparation for bottling, the wines are fined, filtered, and final blends are created by the winemaking staff. Bottling takes place using a semi-automatic machine where the empty glass is loaded onto a conveyor, purged with inert gas, and then filled and sealed using either a traditional cork closure or the more modern Stelvin screw cap closure. Many of our wines, over 75% in fact, can be found under Stelvins, as they eliminate the risk of cork-associated taints and keep white wines and sweet wines fresher and fruitier than their traditional counterpart. In addition to traditional still wines, we produce a limited amount of sparkling wine in the traditional method champenois used in France. Depending on the wine, it may be aged on the yeast sediment or lees for several years to increase the complexity of the wine. In order to remove the yeast lees from this process, the bottles are then riddled by hand up to 2 times per day for a month to collect the sediment in the neck of the bottle prior to disgorging. With the bottles kept upside down, the neck is flash frozen, and the small ice capsule containing all the sediment is expelled using the natural pressure in the bottle. The winemaker then adds a dosage liqueur in order to achieve the final taste before sealing the bottle with a cork and wire hood. Here at Mazza, we also produce ice wine in the traditional fashion. Vidal Blanc grapes are left to hang on the vine well past their typical harvest window in late October. As they hang, the fruit dehydrates and the flavors evolve. Nets are placed on the vines to protect the grapes from birds and deer, as well as preventing them from falling to the ground and being buried in snow. As winter sets in, anticipation grows as we wait for the temperature to drop below 17 degrees Fahrenheit. The grapes are then harvested by hand and immediately brought into the winery to be pressed while they are still frozen. Squeezing a grape that is hard as a marble yields a tiny amount of juice and leaves much of the water behind as ice. The result is a sweet, intensely flavored juice that produces a dessert-style wine with all natural residual sweetness. While visiting Lake Erie wine country, be sure to visit our sister winery. Mazza Chautauqua Cellars, located in Mayville, New York, has a unique array of wines and is home to the region's only distillery. Using the handcrafted still imported from Germany, Mazza Chautauqua Cellars crafts a range of distilled spirits. Wines, as well as spirits including grappa and fruit brandies, are available for tasting. You can also visit the home to one of the oldest wine brands in the Lake Erie region when you stop at the South Shore Wine Company. The Civil War-era stone cavern is modeled after the wine caves of France and was home to Erie County's first commercial winery in the early 1860s. Today, the cellar has been restored to a beautiful tasting room featuring another unique list of wines. From all of us here at Mazza Wines, thank you for visiting.